In this session on plants, we want to look at the types of plant organs that exist. Now, for most of us, thinking about a plant having an organ is something kind of odd, but let's think about the basic definition of an organ. Cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems make up organisms, right? For tissues, we look at the cells all being the same. But for organs, we look at different tissue types making up each organ. If it's easier to think about it in people, think about your heart. We can talk about fat tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, muscle tissue, all making up your heart. In plants, we can look at the same types of things, but they're a little bit easier. They have three basic types of organs: roots, stems, and leaves. So if we look at our roots, stems, and leaves of any of our plants, we need to think about how those could form into organ systems. So a shoot system is simply an organ system of a plant. So when we look at a shoot system, we're thinking about how the stems and leaves are going to work together to move carbon dioxide around the plant, to move sun into the plant, to help us move the sun's converted energy in the form of sugar around the plant. So with this, we get basic structures. In our stems, the basic structures are just the points at which we attach leaves, known as nodes, and then the space in between. So if we actually look at a plant structure in a minute, we can think about how those nodes and internodes come into play. But from a very simple standpoint, they look like this. So the nodes are where the leaves are actually going to attach to the plant, and the internode is the space between two leaves attaching to the plant. Simple, right? Right. That's really all there is to it. When we look at the roots and leaves, we can think about similar types of things. Let's focus first on the leaves. This is where we're going to see buds occur. Now, we think about buds in the spring when the trees are starting to come out of their rest from winter, and it's a sign that the warm weather is coming. But when we look in plants, we actually have several different types of buds. The axillary buds are what we're actually interested in the springtime. These are the buds that come out and start to produce leaves for us, and we look at them as being, the point where our leaves will eventually come into play and give us a plant that's functioning and photosynthesizing. The terminal buds, on the other hand, are the structures that we look at that will actually be associated with our developing leaves at the tops of our plant. And so we think about terminal buds as actually being the buds responsible for helping to make the plant taller. These are also known as apical buds. So when we look at this phrase apical bud, we are often referred to in plant hormone discussions later on something called apical dominance. Apical dominance is what makes your Christmas trees around the holidays be triangles. Apical dominance wants that tree to get taller. It doesn't want it to be wide at the top. Why not? Well, think about a pine tree versus an umbrella. Which one is going to allow more light to reach all parts of the plant? The pine tree? Right. So what we want to think about is how this plant structure is really ideal for not only growing these leaves at particular points along the stem, but also thinking about how the formation of these leaves and the structure of these leaves will be important when we talk about photosynthesis. When we talk about plant roots and plant shoots, we actually look at systems that are completely dependent on one another and connected to each other. So we will look at vascular tissue bringing water from the deepest roots all the way up through a single pathway to the leaves in the top of the tree or plant. So we'll look at that more when we discuss vascular tissue. I just want you to keep it in mind that these are interconnected systems, and we can't talk about movement of water and sugar around a plant without looking at both roots and shoots or stems. Stems and shoots are often used interchangeably. Remember, we said a little bit ago that a shoot system is the combination of stems and leaves. As a review, is this plant a monocot or a dicot?